The rallies are drawing attention to Aboriginal deaths in custody and are being held in solidarity with American protesters over the death of unarmed black man George Floyd. We have reporters Mark Reddie in Sydney and Margaret Paul is in Melbourne for us. Mark, to you first. This protest shouldn't be going ahead, according to the authorities, is it?
Yeah, well, that's right, Lorna. Right now there is a hearing in the New South Wales Supreme Court. The organisers of the Black Lives Matter movement here in Sydney are appealing a decision to ban today's rally. The demonstrators have already gathered here in their numbers. They are draped in Aboriginal flags. They have placards with them, and they're here to raise awareness about the rising deaths in custody among Indigenous Australians, but also to remember George Floyd, who was killed in the United States. So we have seen a number of police officers here on bikes already. People are keeping their distance and they do have masks. But of course, the real debate here, that seems, is there is obviously a health crisis versus freedom of speech. And the Premier has always said that if there are large gatherings, that there could be a potential second wave of COVID-19 cases. And that's not what she wants. Let's take a listen now to what the Police Minister, David Elliott, had to say.
Police are prepared for anybody that wants to just flout the law. As tragic as it is that we're in a situation that freedom of speech isn't as free as we would like it to be at the moment, I am concerned that some people, particularly those incited by other MPs overnight, will turn up.
Rules at the moment are clear. You can't, because of social distancing. All lives matter when it comes to those that may get COVID.
Mark, we're just hearing David Shoebridge saying that the appeal has now started in the Supreme Court. We'll keep an eye on that and see what happens there. But what are the protesters there saying about it?
Yeah, well, joining me now is Shania Donovan. She is a Gadigal woman, and it's important to say that we are on Gadigal land today. Shania, tell us why you're here.
Listen, I'm here because for more than 200 years we've waited for something to happen in terms of justice for our people, and so far nothing's been done. And it's a conversation that I need to have as a young Indigenous person, and I will not be silent so other people can be comfortable.
So what are some of the issues that you want addressed by the government or even the police?
So I want to address police brutality in terms of their treatment of Indigenous people, Indigenous deaths in custody and how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are treated in custody, and just, racism. Racism, the fact that we have to argue it is proof that it's still here.
Why do you think it took something to happen in the United States with the death of George Floyd for a protest to begin here in Sydney and across the country?
We are scared. We're scared. We have a lot of shame that we shouldn't have. And racism is so deeply embedded in Australian culture and in Australian politics and in the law that it's not even really recognised by people.
And what are some examples you've received yourself as a 16-year-old? You're very young.
Look, I get racially profiled when I go into Kmart. I have to go into Kmart in my work uniform so it doesn't look like I'm going to steal something. And I get called, I'm not going to say it on air because...
Can I ask you as well, what do you want out of today's protest? What do you want people to see? What message are you hoping is out there?
I want to influence change. As a young Indigenous person, I know there are plenty of other people out there who are like me, who want to see change in the legal system and in Australian politics, and I want to be a voice for my ancestors and for people who haven't had the chance or the opportunity to voice their opinions, because this is, at the end of the day, unceded Aboriginal land that was taken from us, never bought or never sold, and it's our job to do something about it.
Right now the protest is technically illegal, and we've heard the government say they don't want a second wave of coronavirus. Can you understand maybe why the government doesn't want so many people gathering like this today?
I absolutely understand. Listen, I haven't been able, my nan's in a nursing home. I haven't seen her in 3 months. I absolutely understand, but at some point something has to change, and it's not going to wait any longer.
And if this protest is considered illegal, will you still be marching?
I will march regardless whether or not it's illegal.
Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you. So there you go. There's just one protester there talking to us about why she's here, making reference to the rising deaths in custody among Indigenous Australians. If you take a look just over here, there are a lot of people gathering now. The crowd numbers are building, and that's despite, of course, this protest still being illegal, Lorna. So we are awaiting a decision from that hearing.
Yeah, we are, Mark. Just very quickly, have you seen many police?
Yeah, at this stage, the police numbers are starting to build. We have seen police on bikes, a few that went by, and we are starting to see them sort of take their places along the light rail, but also along George Street. So at this stage, it is still very peaceful. The mood isn't tense. Everyone's just sort of standing around. But of course, this is likely to fuel tensions if this rally is considered illegal, because as you heard from Shania Donovan there, a Gadigal woman, she will be marching anyway.
All right, Mark, keep us across that. Thank you for now. Well, Victorian authorities have also urged protesters to stay away. The rally there is still going ahead, as you can see. We are live in Melbourne. Margaret Paul is there for us. What sort of numbers are you seeing there, Margaret?
Lorna, it's very hard to guess how many numbers there would be there, but we've been in contact with other reporters at different points along the protest here in Melbourne, and our early estimate is as much as 5,000 people have gathered here in central Melbourne. They're outside the front of State Parliament here in the middle of Melbourne. They're stretching down Spring Street and down Bourke Street, arguing that Black Lives Matter. There are placards all around me, as you can see. Yesterday, the Premier was out asking people, do not come to this rally. As you can see, they have. They've been asked to keep 1.5 metres distance between each other. People are trying to do that, but with so many people, it's becoming quite difficult. They've been asked to gather in groups of less than 20 as well, and as you can see, there's a large number here so far.
Yeah, and Margaret, is it a particular type of person protesting? What's the makeup of the groups there?
Well, as I say, everyone's wearing masks. It's impossible to characterise the makeup of the protest. I think it's quite a varied profile of people from around Melbourne who have turned up today. As you can see, we're in the middle of the protest right now, so they've all got banners of different with different words on them. A lot of Black Lives Matter banners, but as to the makeup of the protest, I'd say it's varied.
Okay, and are the police around there? Are they pointing people in certain directions? What are they doing?
Yeah, there are police here. They're wearing masks as well. They're keeping to the sides of the protest. They've got police forces on the steps of Parliament. So yeah, they've got a presence here too in Melbourne.
Okay, Margaret Paul, who's there for us in Melbourne, thanks very much. And Mark Reddie in Sydney too. And Mark, will come back to you when we get any decision from the Supreme Court as to whether they might change their minds on the ruling of that rally there. Thank you both. Well, protests continue around the country, as we've heard, in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. Reporter Talissa Signato has more details on the protest in Brisbane.
Police and organisers have said that they're expecting upwards of 5,000 people here, to the point that the place that they're meeting here has already spilled out onto the road. Obviously that makes it very difficult to social distance here, but I can say we have seen a lot of people here today wearing masks. So far we've heard speeches and there's been some performances. Shortly the big group will make its way here from the city in Brisbane across the bridge over to South Brisbane, where some more speeches are expected to be held this afternoon.
People seem to be wearing masks. What are the authorities saying about how they're going to handle this rally?
Well, obviously because of the size of this gathering, it is a pretty heavy police presence here at the moment, although they are staying on the sidelines for now. They have said that their biggest concern here is for people who may come and try and use this mass gathering as a cover to act violently or disrupt protesters who aren't actually involved in the movement at all. Now, they, for the most part, are happy to facilitate the rally peacefully. Now, they say they aren't going to be here handing out mass fines or arrests, but they will be on the lookout for those who are blatantly disregarding those physical distancing measures.
And Talissa, is this the only protest in Queensland today?
Well, this is just one of many that have been organised across the state. This morning in Townsville, a peaceful rally was held with about 600 people at a park on the Strand, and they were all sitting in very small groups of less than 20. They were involved in some chanting, and there was also a welcome to country this morning as well. Now, our reporter there in Townsville tells us that they were all adhering to social distancing, and the afternoon was spent giving a minute's silence to those who've died in custody.
Talissa, Signato there. It's not just the capital cities, as we've heard, that are having protests today. Reporter Verity Gorman is in Wagga Wagga in New South Wales, where a rally there in support of Black Lives Matter movement has already taken place.
More than 1,000 people turned out to this rally in Wagga Wagga to show support for the family of George Floyd in the US and also to highlight deaths in custody in Australia. They started at one end of Wagga Wagga's main street, made their way up to this monument here to the stolen generation. Along the street, they chanted "All Lives Matter" when Black Lives Matter. They also paused for 2 minutes, and a lot of people took a knee just to remember those who have died in custody in Australia. It was a very peaceful protest. That was always the intention from organisers right from the start. There were a lot of families, children, people brought their dogs along, and it was also a very multicultural event. There was a police presence. Police escorted the march up the street, but they said their role really was just traffic management. They wanted to ensure that everyone could move safely along the main street and get to the destination here. There was some concerns about social distancing. Organisers reminded people throughout the march to maintain social distancing. There were also a lot of people wearing masks. But organisers say they were just blown away with the turnout. There was probably around 1,500 people, we think, turned out for this event, and they hope that it will now be a conversation starter.